Hey traders, Nick here looking at Tesla, I just did Tesla looking at NEO. I'll put the link of the Tesla video here because they kind of relate. They're both having a bad day, and the idea is do people panic now or what? Um, I'm going to keep this as much technical as possible. I don't care about the fundamentals. It seems like it's one of the ones that actually has a product. So if I wanted to nitpick on EVs, upcoming EVs, this would not be it, because at least they have something to sell versus one that is just selling us nothing but vaporware yet. So technically, just like Tesla, in the Tesla video, I said that I would be. Somebody's asking for the write up. I would be not panicking out at this level because it's falling into prior pivots. So, for example, this was a clear breakout where it failed, broke out, tested it for footing, and went. You can say the same here. All right, so how could we have planned this a little bit better? And stick with me at the end. I'll tell you what to look for going forward, because it's the important part. So these were my lines, and I drew them before they unfolded. In fact, this one ended here, so that tells me I did it somewhere around here, early Feb, and or maybe late Jan. And then I expected, if they don't hold, for this to happen, right? And I said buy the dip if base 1 fails. That was base 1, and that failed. So this is where I wouldn't be panicking. This is where I expect them to try to hold, right? That's what happened with Tesla, same thing. And also, this will be a good starting point. So if this fails, if I bought the dip and it failed and it fell into here, not the end of the world, because I bet you this goes to mean something back to the left, and we'll go find out. The problem is going forward, what to expect of upside, right? And so if it bounces, what's going to happen? So this market has been insane. They've been buying the dip with ferociousness. Now, the important part is who takes control of the reins going forward for a stretch of time would determine what happens with the pops. So in this case, what I don't want to see is the control shifts from the bulls to the bears, or buyers and sellers, because bulls sell if they're traders. So in this case, it's simple to say bulls in charge, buyers in charge, nobody's in charge. Are the bears in charge? Right? That's the biggest question mark. Are the bears in charge? Because if they're not, then this will stabilize and they'll still fight over the level sideways. So that's the question for the bulls. This will determine whether I buy the pop or not, because if this is going to develop into a failing point, then I don't want to be here buying stuff, especially when here is also the prior pivot level that they just lost. This was the trigger for the downside. When they come back to it, so if I were to put one line, what happens at X right there? And it's, if they pop back to it, what happens? If they're lucky. If not, they're going to fight over it here. So if the pop doesn't even reach here, it's going to reach somewhere around here. So this whole area is the question mark going forward. I feel like John Madden now. So the question mark is there going to be a lower high trend? And if that's the case, then bulls in charge, nobody's in charge, bears in charge. So I know what to do with the stock. Trading wise, investment wise, that's on you. Entry points, I told you this would be a buy the dip moment with a tight stop if you don't want to ride it lower, but I expect a lot of support here. Let me zoom out, in fact, to see what the heck that is all about. We go from 1 hour charts to, oh my God, to a daily chart, which everybody's used to seeing. Let me see here, my notes. I don't even remember what I said. All right, so that's the cyan, turquoise, blue color that we were looking at earlier. That's the same arrow down. That's that descending trend I'm talking about. So bulls in charge. They're not even, they're just, they could be losing the reins on the daily. So on the shorter time frame, it looked like they went sideways for a little bit, and now they could be losing the reins. They are in the seller's hand, so to speak. But if you change the time frame, because it suits different people differently, the decision is different. So this was a solid base. I expect it to hold. This was a failed breakout to a degree. They came back and broke out from it, tested again successfully. They could test it again, but if they do, it's not a place to leave. Good starting position. So if I were to own shares, I would probably sell puts in here to own shares, not as a trade, and collect a premium, and hopefully somebody will sell me the shares at 44. And if they don't, I made money out of thin air. I don't do this if I don't want to own shares. If I don't want to own shares, I want to trade that idea, I would do a put spread sold put spread. So it's a credit put spread, bull put spread. It's a bullish position using a put spread that does not require a rally. So now the question becomes is this going to be the base that we lost, base one? Is it going to be forward resistance? You've heard that before. I argue that in this, whoa, that's pretty bright. What the heck? This is, that's not cool. Whoops. I argue that it's not going to be a hard line in the sand. It's more of a zone. I don't know if it's a complete zone, so I'll just say, yeah, I'll do this resistance zone. So the line starts here, and it actually starts here, and it could extend into the other resistances that I had put there before, like this zone, this line. Onus is on the bulls to show us something great, and so far they've done great with that. This blue-red thing that's going on sideways, it's the regression line. I don't draw these. It's just a mathematical representation of the price action, kind of give you a visual as to the channel they're trading inside. It doesn't forecast that it's going to keep going that way at all. So if you use that for trading, you're going to trip. The levels are more important. And in this case, they kind of agree. They tell me that this level here should be pretty strong. And if it's not, then there's a lot of strength below it. All this has to work inside a really, really crazy stock market. This is not normal, folks. This has to stop. And unfortunately, the traders are not using logic to make it stop. It should break in order to stop. I hope not, but that's how it's going. I say this as somebody who sees the price action as bullish, therefore is not shorting the markets. But I say this also as somebody who's holding VIX calls as protection in case something breaks. Nobody can tell you where the crap's going to come from, but this cannot continue forever. The laws of physics can bend to a degree, but even the WSB, is that what they're called, on Reddit, will have to yield to the laws of physics. Eventually, they will have to let some steam out because it hasn't happened before, and it's not, they haven't created anything new. Like I tell my son, he's 19 now, and he's growing up, you didn't invent any of these tricks you think you're passing on me. I did them to my parents just the same, maybe with different technologies and stuff, but nevertheless. So look at the chart. This is a monthly chart for the 2,000 shares stocks of the Russell 2000. And does this inspire a base for a new leg higher? It doesn't. Does not mean it's top. It just means it doesn't inspire a base. Therefore, I have to be cautious. I have to book often along the way. I can't commit and overcommit and recommit, which brings another point. If somebody is long already, what are we looking at? NEO. If somebody's already long NEO, they are starting to add. I don't. If it's a speculative bet, I don't add unless I really bought the top. I usually want at least 20% dip before I add. And if it's a speculative bet, I don't add at all. So I'll use Hyliion as an example, which I'm pretty sure will upset some people. If I bought it and I'm adding to it, I'm making a mistake because it's not a sure thing. The company could just disappear. I'm not saying it will, but I'm saying it could. It's not Apple where it's, it could go through a swoon and it'll come back. We don't know if it's going to come back. I always use the same example, Webvan. You've never heard of it because it went belly up in the dot-com bubble because people averaged down in it, a friend of mine, and they ended up losing their entire investment in it because it went belly up. Well, imagine the business was delivery from the internet of groceries. Woo! Can you imagine it starting up now? So shit happens, excuse me, and to the best of companies. So if it's a speculative bet, I don't average down, especially if one that's moved so fast. This is not a cheap company. I don't want cheap, but I'm talking, it's a growth company, so I don't want cheap from a growth perspective, but it's an expensive price to sales. Growth companies I look at from a price to sales perspective. This is a lot more expensive than Tesla's price to sales, and it's almost 9 times, not almost, it is 9 times more expensive than Amazon. It doesn't grow 9 times faster than Amazon by any means. So it's expensive from that perspective. I'm not looking for PE or anything like that for gauging how expensive it is. I'm just saying, relatively speaking to other growth companies, it's out of whack. So I don't think I would be adding if I got long here. That's my opinion. All right, so link somewhere in the description maybe, or in the pop-up, I don't know, to the Tesla video if you're interested. And the chat room below.